Welcome back to the Movies That Make You. This is our Creators Conversations newer segment. We are joined today by two incredibly talented people. We have Wes Clark, who is a director and a writer, and we also have Haulston Mann. They made a hilarious movie called How to Start a Cult in 5 Easy Steps. And we're going to talk to them about that movie and other projects they have going on. So, welcome to the show, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Cool. I think, it was a lot of fun, kind of not diving fully deep into the movie, but I will say I really enjoyed your film and just appreciate everything that it was kind of poking fun at, but then had some heart to it too. So excited to dive into that. But I kind of like to just ask before we get into the film itself. Let's start with you, Wes. What was your kind of moment that you decided, like, this is what I want to do. I want to make film.
It's a great question. So in high school, I went to like an all boys prep school. So most of my classmates ultimately, I mean, everyone went to college. I think literally 100% of the student body. And then, most people go into professions that are professional professions. So banking or law or medicine or something along those lines, tech. And I was going to do that too. And my dad sat me down when I got into college and said, all right, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, "Oh, I'll be a lawyer like you." And he, not so jokingly, said he would kill me if I did that. He came from no money. He was very poor growing up, and he kind of made himself into something. And so he just wanted me to pursue something that I enjoyed. He did a job out of necessity, and he didn't want that for his kids. He wanted his kids to pursue things that made them happy, but could still build a career. Where we're not like trust fund kids or anything like that. So it was great, and so he said, "Listen, in the next week, figure it out. Find something that you're actually passionate about. What do you actually want to do?" And I took a week, and I was pretty serious about it, and really thought through all the paths that could be ahead. And I came back and said film, and he was unbelievably supportive. The rest of my family very supportive as well. And so ever since senior year of high school, I've had one pretty singular goal in mind.
That's amazing. That is an amazing story. Parental support is huge, and I can appreciate kind of his mindset in that he wanted to set it up for his kids so that they could follow their dreams. That's awesome. And kind of same question to you, Halston. What was the turning point in your life when you decided, you know what, I want to pursue this acting thing?
Yeah, man. Um, well, I grew up in Arkansas, okay, in the northeast corner of Arkansas, and my family, we were like like super poverty stricken area. Um, I actually my folks were in and out of like drug addiction a whole lot, so it was very unstable growing up. Where my brother and I are working, going to like a friend's house, or like staying with our grandparents, or you know staying all alone at the home while our parents might be sitting off a jail sentence or something. It was really
Yeah.
shaky growing up.
Wow.
But the way that I always kind of like handled that was by being an entertainer, by being a storyteller. You know, that was kind of pretty early on. How I was like coping with that sort of situation, living in my imagination and entertaining for others. It went into like a music direction when I was about 13. I started songwriting and doing music, and um, around my junior year, I think, maybe sophomore year of high school, I was doing like student council and getting up in front of people. And a girlfriend at the time asked me to audition for a musical with her, and I was like, "Nah, it's not for me." But I did, and I fell in love with it when I was in front of an audience. I was like, "Oh, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life, entertaining these folks." And then through the years, it's kind of changed from this fascination with like live performance to a fascination with. I think I fully transitioned to on camera work in 2020, and that's been really what's been kind of lighting me up. I think you can get really, really granular with some of the stuff that you do in on camera stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get really precise because you have a few takes to really dial in on what you want. Whereas on a stage, there's some give and take, and one night might be slightly different than the next, but but so there's people I know that enjoyed that side of it as well, that like every night is different.
Yeah.
I can understand your position as well, where it's like, no, I want to get really precise and be as exact as I want to be. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's fun. And I like to try to get back to theater, once a year, once every,
Sure.
handful of years. So it's a
Yeah.
good brush up.
It's been fun to kind of see some Hollywood actors that have been acting in movies for a long time. But when I was growing up, and then to see them, they're performing on stage. It's kind of a cool dynamic for sure. Very cool, man. What were some of your early inspirations for you, Wes? Like when you think, I mean, you're fairly young as it is, but kind of what were some of the first, like maybe it was a writer or director or a writer director or whatever that you kind of said, this is a niche of this that I'd like to play in.
I was always in and out of the movie theater. I mean, when I was in high school and I got my car and I had that sense of freedom for the first time, I was in the movie theater alone, like late at night, 4 or 5 times a week. I mean, like legitimately getting home from school and then just immediately going to the theater. That's not to say I did poorly in school. I actually did well, but I just like, that's like what I wanted to, that's where I wanted to be. And that's what I wanted to do. So, inspiration was really anything, whether that be new, obviously in the theater, or old. I would always try to watch pretty much anything. I kind of naturally stayed away from those like big blockbustery movies for some of the like the more classics. So, I mean, whether it be something, new classic, meaning like Scorsese, right? Obviously, like Taxi Driver, which is old, but like not really that old, or even just like really old stuff. I mean, it just didn't really matter. I was always watching, always consuming, and trying to kind of understand how exactly things were shot and how the story would unfold. I would say the movie Good Will Hunting has had like quite a big impact on my life. I've just watched it. I don't even know at this point, 2, 3 dozen times at this point.
Sure.
I can probably quote it, half of it at least at this point. But I would say in a more modern sense, like Tarantino has always been someone that I always bounce back to, and not necessarily in the way that most people think, which is the blood, gore, guts, like craziness. But for me, he kind of says it to the whole, hey, like this is what every scene has to have a point. Every scene has to build whatever. Like he allows certain scenes to just go off on a tangent, rather whether they're talking about like hamburgers in the car or like whatever it may be. I like the seemingly randomness, but that every beat of the movie is just so shocking that but yet it converges together at the end. So, I mean, Pulp Fiction being just such a classic of absolute chaos. And I think you see a lot of these recent movies coming out that are considered like the best movies. People don't really point to Pulp Fiction being the catalyst for them, but, I was watching Marty Supreme, and like to me, I'm watching Marty Supreme, and I'm like, this is so Tarantino-esque. Where like you would have never thought that bathtub falls through the floor, but like, of course it does. And like, it needs to fall through the floor because then, that guy's arm breaks. And so the dog, and so then the money. And so
Yeah.
it's seemingly random and it's seemingly plot driven, and it is at times, but it all comes together and converges at the end. And I that kind of stuff always fuels me. And that's how you kind of get to this like weird thing where it's hard for me to necessarily genre point my work, because it's, yeah, okay, like How to Start a Cult, like there's a lot of humor, but then there's like really kind of depressing parts, and then in the end it's a lot more of a thriller. And like I'm willing to kind of go beyond the genre because I don't focus on, hey, I'm a comedy filmmaker. I'm just a filmmaker. I don't really care what the genre is, quite frankly. So I try to just consume. I think the biggest thing for a director is to just watch everything and anything, and try to learn from it.
That's awesome. Very cool. I know for me, I'm kind of a genre, like whatever happens also. I love the big blockbusters, but I also love the small movies and even the classics. It's funny because we just talked about it on one of the podcasts, but we've got, last year we had Wolfman come out, which is a Universal monster. We had Nosferatu that got dropped, which is also not, while it's kind of it's a precursor to the Universal monsters, dealing with the same type of character with Dracula. And then this year we've got the Mummy and Bride of Frankenstein, and of course Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. So it's like all of this playing in this Universal monsters. And this would gave me the excuse to actually go back and watch those for the first time. Because while I always had it on my list, I didn't have a real specific reason to like, let's pick this old black and white movie up and watch it, you know? And sometimes you just need that reason to say like, yes, this is on my list. And now I have a really good purpose and a really good reason to watch it. And it's actually fueling, you know, all this other creativity after it. So you can see the early onset of different ideas by looking at those classics. Very cool. And I'll let Josh take over after this one, but Halston, kind of same question. What are some of your actor heroes that or actress heroes? Anybody
Yeah.
that kind of you look to that like that's kind of what I want to be.
Yeah, man. I have a handful of them. I've always loved the sort of the leading character actors is what I call them. I think that's sort of where I fit in as well as an actor. So folks like Sam Rockwell, folks like
Yeah.
Gary Oldman, gosh, huge influences. On me as an actor. A lot of times when you're looking at, listening to how to become an actor, how to pursue acting, they always tell you find the one thing that you do really, really well, and you're that's your like type that you want to really, really nail, right? So I think it's interesting kind of coming at it with I'm trying to be a leading character actor. Like some of these guys. Oh, also I can't leave out Michelle Williams and Carrie Coon. Love those women. They are
Yeah.
incredible.
Absolutely. We
Huge
were just talking about
influences.
Michelle. We were just talking about Michelle Williams, just because of the Dawson's Creek connection and James Vanderbeek's passing and stuff like
Oh, yeah.
that.
Well, and speaking of theater, Carrie Coon's on Broadway right now. She's
That's
doing
awesome.
she's doing one. I believe Bug. I believe it's a Tracy Letts from Oklahoma. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He's
Very
from,
cool.
he's from Oklahoma, and he
That's
it's one of his
awesome.
plays. Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
Broadway is cool. I've been to New York City a few times, not in years, but when I was a kid, and every time, all three times we went, I went to a different Broadway play. So I went to Beauty and the Beast. That was when I was real little. That was really cool. And then the one that like blew my mind was Phantom of the Opera, because they still keep it in like that old like eerie theater, and
Yes.
it's just so like it was already awesome. Like I liked the music from it and stuff, but seeing it in that old timey theater that it's been in for years was like, and this was probably shoot 15 years ago when I did this, because I mean I was in 8th grade, I think. So oh no, longer than that, 20. It's been like 20 something years. So I don't know if it's still playing in that theater. I think it ended its run finally, but just cool. I love like the aesthetic and how cool they played that out in on Broadway, which is really cool.
So I have to make a little bit of connection here because I was kind of the same way. In high school, I played basketball, and then my senior year, I decided to try out for the musical. I'd always sung like in church and stuff, which is why I really resonated with this film. By the way, I thought it was hilarious for that reason. But like, I also pursued the music, and after that, when I went to college, I ended up doing music theater as well. I think Josh, you did some music stuff in college too, so we connect on that. But in 2014, I had vocal nodules from singing too hard at a rock club, and so I ended up having to like go on vocal rest. And then when I came back off of vocal rest, I had to find a vocal coach that could help me kind of sing the style that I like to sing, but sing it correctly. And actually, it ended up finding a guy that played Phantom in Germany for 7 years, and then on New York Broadway for 7 years. So he was
Wow,
my vocal coach. So the Phantom taught me how to sing.
that's cool. He
Kind of
stayed in
crazy.
character the whole time too.
He did. He was just
He was like,
he
"Don't
was,
look at me.
Yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
Let's work on your vocals."
yeah, exactly.
I kind of wanted to ask you, Wes, since this is creators conversations, like how things are made and stuff. Um, what was the biggest thing you learned either from your early short films? I think you had 4 or 5 short films before your first feature, which was called Gap Year. What's like the biggest takeaway for young filmmakers that you learned either on the shorts first or even like the feature film?
Yeah, so I'll even pinpoint Gap Year. So like my first feature that I always point to is How to Start a Cult. The Gap Year was a feature I did while in college, which was like entirely just me running around with a camera, like forcing people to act for me. And like, that was a crazy process because when you're doing the shorts, so I got grants for 2 different shorts I made in college. And so you get the money, and that's like, okay, how does that budget down? How do we break that down? Okay, here are the scenes. But when you're actually making the film from like a craft perspective, when you're actually talking about like filmmaking, yeah, you get like aspects because you start learning about the camera and the different lenses and like, oh, you could do this angle or that angle. Like that's all really good. But when you go from a short to a feature, there is just such a difference in what your job is as a director. When you're making a short as a director, your job is a lot more like, okay, we're gonna get the story shot in a way that it looks really clean, and like this is gonna look really good on my reel as like this scene, maybe, right? Maybe you're sending the whole short, but like you're more likely just gonna send like snippets. But when you actually go to a movie, it's like, okay, so this character's like this in, scene 3, but then in scene 75 at the end of the movie, they need to be over here. And how do we get there without it just like jumping in one whole scene? Like there needs to be like little minor steps. And that is a much harder thing. So you become, as a director for feature, a lot bigger on tone, whereas in a short, usually it's kind of like a one moment where that character has a shift. Usually it's like some big plot twist at the end. Whereas for a feature, like that's not true. If you're having one big plot point and then now it's a new person, maybe, but like not really. Like you really need to smooth it out and have the carryover from scene to scene, sequence to sequence. So it becomes a much harder job for you just to keep it all in your head, and kind of smoothed over. I will say this, like the biggest thing as a filmmaker to like learn, and you can't really learn it on a short, which is something I just didn't know until How to Start a Cult came around, was once that film is done, your job changes, right? So like I wrote, directed, produced, edited, whatever. We had wonderful people work on the project, but I did a bunch of it. I did all the props and the wardrobe. But when you write it, you're a writer, and then you're kind of going out for financing, so you're kind of an executive producer. Then you're in pre-production, so you're kind of all of them. Then you're shooting, you're just the director, editor. But once that thing is done, you're none of these creative jobs, and now you're just selling product. Now you're a sales agent. Now you're a PR person, and those are jobs that you just don't do on a short, because on a short, you're going to put it up on YouTube and then hopefully some people watch it. Maybe you submit to a festival or two. But quite frankly, these days, that stuff doesn't even matter. You just never learn that sales aspect of it. You never really learn the business. And it's like, you need to know the business. I mean, even for fundraising, you need to understand it. And I kind of conceptually did. But now when I go to fundraise a project, it's okay, like this is how the money works. This is the time period for it. Here's how you're going to get your money. Here's how we're safeguarding it. And these are things that, if it's not a hobby for you and this is a profession, you just simply cannot learn doing shorts. Maybe I've never experienced it that way. So that was a big learning process for me.
That's awesome. That's good stuff.
Yeah,
The,
really cool.
the I mean, it is funny because like you think about when you've got a big studio backed film, there's departments for all of those things, and so if you get to that level, there's a chance where you can just focus on one of the pieces and then trust the others to do it. But I can imagine being the sole kind of visionary for it, and starting out with the independent film. It's you got to wear all the hats. So absolutely.
Yeah, and like here's the thing that people don't understand too, and I think Sean Baker had a quote about this literally this week. Hopefully it was a new quote, maybe it was old, but when you go to that studio system, and I've had producers approach me from like mid-tier studios, like you will sign with that person, or maybe you don't sign anything, but there's kind of like an agreement. That thing might get made in 4 or 5 years. And
Mhm.
so, this is how you end up seeing people who have one good indie film, and then on their IMDb page, there's like a 3-year gap. And those people did almost nothing for that 3-year gap because they signed with someone saying, oh, we're going to make something. And so you're in that mindset of indie where, I wrote that script in 10 days. I had it financed about a month and a half, 2 months later. And then we went to production about 2.5 months after that. Right. And so
Right.
like the speed that you can do it. I mean, even to that point, I had a second movie finished, locked in edit before How to Start a Cult came out. So like you can just work so much faster. It's a very different environment. Whereas now having to work with like a little bit higher groups, like everything just takes forever. And these are also just learning curves. Like you just don't know how to interact. You don't understand, okay, there's going to be 10 producers involved in this project and all 10 are going to have notes and a lot of them are going to conflate. And so how do you actually like reconcile that? And a lot of them are just idiots. Like, so, just to be honest with you, like they don't know what they're talking about. So that's another thing I learned. Nobody in this industry knows jack shit. I have had calls with people who are like legitimately have done big things. And then they tell me things. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I think the most competent people are the directors and like the lead actors. Those guys typically understand how a film actually gets made. It's kind of everyone around that, whether that be sales, distribution, producers, those guys have no concept of how it works. None. So it's just, it gets to be really weird. The higher you go, it really is just like, yeah, it's a different business completely.
Sure. Absolutely. Halston, what I mean, how did you break into the industry? Because I see you've got credits all the way back to 2010, 2013. What was it that I know you said you grew up in Arkansas. Kind of how did you make your way into the industry from being there?
I was so ready to just take my shirt off for any production that wanted it.
Understood.
Yeah, no, I was, no, I went to, so I did the theater thing. I found theater in high school, and then I knew that I was already behind a lot of the folks that were gonna make this their life, right? Um, because a lot of folks start young, like as children with theater. And being in Northeast Arkansas, I didn't have any. I didn't. We barely had like a theater club, you know. So yeah, I got into some programs between my junior and senior year. Like that summer, I went to governor's school and studied theater, and then I got into the University of Oklahoma and had some classical training in acting out there. While I was doing that, I was working in a lot of summer stock theater programs around the nation. A lot of Shakespeare. I actually thought I was going to be a classical theater guy for a long time for my career, and then yeah, I went to Dallas right after school. Was doing the theater thing. Would get an indie film here and there, and then ended up getting into the union and went to New York. And I was in New York for 8 years, and that was where it really started to, sort of pick up for me in terms of getting some more indie films. There was a production company that worked with me several times on some several different roles, and I got to really hone my skills for on camera. Um, yeah. So yeah, worked all over the nation, sort of in theater, and then
Mhm.
had a little bit of a reset in 2020 where I was like, okay, I got to set that aside and really dive into my craft here and figure out film. And there was a moment of like not being as good at film acting as I was at theater acting, and I had to figure out how to make that work a little bit better.
It's so interesting that you say like you were able to learn in those experiences. This is also a huge difference. As an actor, I think that that's totally legitimate. Like, how are you going to
Yes.
learn? Do it on the roll. For being like the filmmaker, when you're making a short, experiment, go try stuff. If it doesn't work, maybe you spent $1,000 and like throw it out. Like, no one needs to see it. But when you get to that feature world, like, no one's paying you to figure it out. People are paying you to like have it done and like well done. So I love that you said that whole thing because honestly, I think that that's so true for actors. Like you guys should be, quite frankly, every project kind of like
Mhm.
exploring, kind of teaching yourself like the new character, right? And so in a
Yeah.
way, you need that time to develop. But on the filmmaking side, absolutely not. I mean, you're
Yeah.
like
Well, because
completely.
it's going to get honed in by a very talented director and editor. You know what I'm saying? If the experiment went a little bit like, oh, we can't really use that, well, great. It's going to get like funneled in by you guys in post. I mean, that's why we were a great team on how to start a cult.
Absolutely.
Really
Exactly.
great
I can
team.
imagine. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of interesting too. Like, I think I just heard that, I can't remember who the actor was, but it was a seasoned actor talking about how, oh, we haven't arrived. You never arrive at at the pinnacle. While you might get some accolades, but you're never done. You never stop learning, because every role is a new thing to learn. And if you walk on set thinking you know all the answers, then you've really just shown how much of an idiot you really are.
Yeah.
So I think that's cool. And then just as a little side question, Romeo and Juliet is in my top 5 movies of all time, the Baz Luhrmann one. So as a Shakespearean actor, what's your favorite Shakespeare play or role?
Yes, yes. So I will let you know, I did have a Romeo moment I played Romeo in 2016 at
Very nice.
Arkansas Shakespeare Theater. It was incredible. Loved that. Loved getting to do that. Big moment for me
Very cool.
as an actor. But my very favorite role that I ever got to do that was Shakespearean is Iago in Othello.
Yeah.
I think Othello is a really interesting story. I think it's a little bit, quite a bit different than a lot of his other tragedies. I think it's a tragedy that should be really funny until it's not funny,
Mhm.
and it's
Yeah.
kind of the same, that's where I started learning, actually, something that I talked to Wes about when we were on How to Start a Cult was, hey, one of the things I do pretty well is being like a charming manipulator. And the
Right.
first time I learned that, learned how to do that and learned that terminology for it was playing
Mhm.
Iago, who is,
Yeah.
honest Iago, everyone's best friend, but also maybe the most evil person written in the English language.
Dude, you said that so perfectly, because that's exactly how I felt. Even early in how to start a cult. I felt like there was this earnestness to your character, and that I wanted to believe that even in that early conversation, when he first makes the choice to start the cult, that that's not he's not starting a cult for a good reason. But then, like, immediately he's like talking to his girlfriend going, you know what? Like, I could really help people. I'm like, I believed you. I believed you right away. So just kind of jumping into that, did the character really want to do good, or is that him just manipulating everybody and manipulating the situation for his own benefit?
I think he really wanted. For me, I think Thomas really wanted it to work. I think he wanted it to be a thing that worked out. He made some not great choices as it was as they were going through the script, um, and it got to become what happened. I don't know. Are
Yeah.
we doing? Do y'all do spoilers on this? I don't know.
We can say spoilers for this if that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because I want to be able to talk about it. As long as Wes is good with that.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right, though. Like, especially when you're doing, I know it's absurd. The film is a dark comedy, right? So it's like there's absurdity in a lot of it, but you cannot start from a premise of the character's absurd. So what I mean by that is, like, if we had Holston's character come out and just be evil, right? And you just think in terms of like Marvel, like this guy's evil.
Mhm.
Like, we don't have the budget to make that work, right? If you have $200 million and it looks crystal clean, then, fair enough, do bad writing, it's going to look great. Lipstick on a pig. But we just can't do that. So you do have to have a character who earnestly thinks that they are going to do something good, right? Whether they're dumb, whether they're just desperate, right? Whatever the reasoning is that maybe it's going to go awry, whatever it may be, is fine. But they do need to start from a point of, yeah, okay, like this is gonna work. And then, like Holston said, like it goes, I mean, haywire completely. And then it becomes him, almost like his jealousy gets in the way, or his whatever, like a bunch of just personality things get in the way. And then it turns into a selfish act instead of him actually trying to help. But that's how you get to it.
The image that I always I don't think that we talk about this, but the image that I had a lot of times when we were filming was like having this like sack of money or sack of beans or whatever, and they're starting to like come out, and you're like, he's trying desperately to kind of keep that in there.
Right. No dinner for you for a week.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, right.
it's
How
like,
can I do this? Yeah. How can I? Oh, yeah, this was a trick.
control the situation? Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So one other kind of nitpick, not nitpick, just kind of granular question, because just watching the film, it was just really well acted, and I think that the scene where you're proposing to, I'm sorry, I forgot her name,
Therese.
the character. Okay, yes, Therese. I felt and you don't have to answer the question because I know sometimes it's good to have a little mystery. We don't need to have all the things. It's good to have the wizard behind the curtain sometimes, but I'll just tell you that I felt like that the proposal was true and honest, and he was finally feeling like he was doing the right thing. But I can also see it her side that she's just like she sees him being a character because he's performing, and she doesn't believe him and trust him. So I thought that the whole scene was acted well. Although the whole time I'm thinking, no, he's being true. He's being true. Don't do this. Don't do this. That's
Well,
kind of my
and I think
reaction
that's
to
the
the character.
genius of Wes's script. I think you did a really great job, literally writing exactly that conflict. I think that was the conflict that should be inspired in that moment.
We talked a lot about like roller coasters, Holston and I, right? Like that's something you and I talked about all the time. Whether it be a scene, whether it be a sequence, whether it be the whole film, it needs to be a roller coaster. The idea of these ridiculous things you learn in middle school or high school that, it's rising action, a climax, and you go down, like, no, like that's the most boring roller coaster ever. It needs to just be complete up and down. And so in that scene, I mean, Holston did a phenomenal job. Like he's acting. She comes in, disrupts his pattern. He's kind of like she kind of breaks him out. He realizes, okay, I need to cover myself here. Sure, let's do it. Why not? But when he gets on that knee, there is a moment where he turns genuine, and even she turns genuine. And you'll notice like her snapping to reality, or her snapping to, oh, he's acting, at least in her mind, is when they say, yes, father, because then she realizes, oh, there's an audience, right? Because her eyes are down on him, his eyes are down on her, or extreme close-ups on their eyes and on the hand. And so it feels really intimate. And we filmed that scene 2 separate days with everyone one day, and then with just that bit where it was just the 2 of them. And so you do get a feeling of intimacy because on set it was intimate. But once they say, yes, father, I mean, right back to reality, like, oh, like this is a we are on stage. And that is the roller coaster. You need to have that. Otherwise, I mean, movies can turn boring really quickly, especially with the attention spans today. It's unbelievable. So yeah, you need that kind of, snapping back and forth. So definitely on purpose.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
Since we're talking about the kind of like the acting portion of it with actor and director, how did this cast kind of come together? I mean, everybody is just casted so well. Also, American Beef, the actor who played him, is that actually him singing in that one scene? Because he has an incredible voice.
That is his voice. He has a voice of an angel, and
Yeah.
he got cast because of that
Yeah,
entirely. That was the only thing I saw. His tape actually was entirely him singing and no actual acting experience.
that's
So
awesome. Yeah,
fortunately,
incredible
he matched.
voice.
Oh, I mean, just unbelievable. I wish I had even a tenth of that. No, the casting, the thing for directors, like your job is so much easier if you just cast well. And there is so much talent that you really do need to just spend the time to find the right person. And the funny thing is, like, there can be 10 right people for the exact same role. It's just, okay, what direction do we want to go? Maybe this person is a little bit more serious. Maybe this person is a little bit more comical, or anything in between. And so you just need to have a holistic view of it while doing the individual pieces. Because if you get someone super comedic and then someone super serious, might not really gel very well. In an ideal world, you have a casting director. How I eventually found Holston, thank God, was through a casting director that I reached out to. I asked her point blank. I was like, "Who do you have? I can't afford, Chris Hemsworth here, but who do you have that, in a couple years that you think could be, leading man in some big films, some big indie films?" And
She said
Halston
Halston will
was
take anything.
pretty much.
And he'll take off his shirt.
and he'll,
Yeah.
And so, like, that's how we got to him. And then, the rest of them, like Therese, she was one of 8,000 submissions for that role. And so we just had to go through. A lot of them don't professionally act. A lot of them submitted just hoping and really had done no acting experience or very limited. But I personally just don't really care about that. So scoop them up. I mean, Ginger, for example, Dallas did phenomenally. He was honestly one of the biggest surprises because I think he was a very big risk for us in pre-production. We were talking about, like, where should the camera go? Should we really, hedge this way, that way? But it got to a point where we're like, he just keeps kind of nailing these lines, like first try. Let's just keep the camera rolling. To the point where I think we may have written a line in there too for him, just being like, oh, well, maybe we can lean a little bit more. So, those are that. And then ultimately, the three that matter the most, obviously, for an ensemble in this case is leading man, Haulston, and then Therese we had, and then we had to have Anton. We just didn't find anyone we liked. We had like 3,000 submissions and we got down to 0, which is not a good feeling in the slightest. And I was not willing to settle. So I just asked Holston. I think he was literally in uh, Dell's like apartment when I asked, and he was like, "Yeah, the guy behind me would be great." And so that worked out. Then you have that built-in rapport, which was great. And I'm sure Holston appreciated that.
It was incredible. Yeah, I mean, it was on our final callback, and he had let me know, and I happened to be out in LA. I was here for a callback for another feature because I was living in New York at that time. Um, and yeah, I was at Alan's house, I was at Dell's house, and Wes asked me about it, and I was like, yeah, well, I'm with my actual real life best friend, and he's like about at this, like, what I'm saying, in his career as an actor, we're both at that level where we're like, going out to lead the genre films, going out to lead the like TV for movie or movie for TV stuff. Do you want to read him? And it literally, I think it gave us the opportunity to like mm, experiment with taking our craft to the as far as we could take it at that time. You know what I mean? So it was an incredible experience getting to work with Alan, getting to work.
Yeah, I could tell like there was just great chemistry between those three. Like you were saying, Wes, like getting those three locked in was so key. And I think that sets the tone for the film because it kind of feels like a little bit like, kind of a buddy comedy. But then you got Therese in there. And of course, I love the couch scene when she's trying to have an intimate moment. And then Anton comes
Yeah.
in without Thomas doesn't have any clue what's going on somehow, so it's just that was kind of a funny, it felt like somewhat it has some classic, I'll say tropes, not in the negative way, but it has some classic comedy beats. And then I think from later on, from that point on, it kind of it starts to tell its own kind of style because we dive into kind of the religious, the cult part of the story. So that's my question is what was it that inspired you to write a story like this? Because I feel like as someone who's grew up in the church and has also seen a lot of these kind of things play out, I can imagine that there might be some history in your life with the subject. So I'd just like to know where you came up with the idea.
I've always been really interested in religion and philosophy and just learning as much as I can about, even cults. I'd throw in there, folklore, stuff like that. And I think there's a lot of human evolution that kind of goes into this as well of just like how did humans get to this point where we're very tribal or like we're very stuck in our ways, and like why do all humans kind of act in these ways? Why are cults so often forming despite the fact that everyone reads about them when they're young and knows, oh, don't join a cult, but yet they keep happening, so clearly no one learns. I was never super religious as a child. I actually, if anything, I grew up Jewish, for a little bit of my life. But I've been to synagogue. I've been to church. I've been to multiple types of churches with friends. So I just randomly asked to bring me to church with them. I've read the Quran cover to cover. Like I've always just been so fascinated by it. And the thing for me too is I just have a different viewpoint since I didn't grow up in the church. I have views where like I've talked about this multiple times, but like I think like as an Eagles fan, I'm from Philadelphia. Like being an Eagles fan is very much like being a cult because you have a place of worship and you have the same outfit everyone wears, and there's one day a week happens to be Sunday, like, and you kind of have these similarities. But you can, my grandparents do pickleball, and if you pickleball on this part of the island in New York, then you're in that group versus that one, and it's always this time, and they all kind of know their like ways around the court. Like those, how is
Mhm.
that not a cult in itself? How is that not a religion in itself? So I've just always been really fascinated with it, and for me, the most important thing was telling a story that a 22-year-old wanted to see, wanted to hear. I think a lot of filmmakers, it takes so long to become a filmmaker that a lot of them, even if they're retroactively going back, you rarely see films that are really good about high school and college. A lot of high school, college films end up being very B level, not really good. And I almost went that route. I almost went even further back, but I was like, no, no, I am 22. I am just about to graduate. Let's do the 22-year-old style and like be in this moment that I am in my life, because I can actually talk about it and express it and understand it in a way that, yeah, okay, I can write this script now and then direct it maybe for $2 million, in 5, 10 years. But like now I'm not in that age. Like now, my friends are getting married and they have kids. So I'd have to retroactively go back. So it was really, really important to me to tell a story that was in the moment, like important to me at that age. And it kind of just came together pretty naturally. I mean, again, it only took me, less than 2 weeks to write the thing. And that's including like prep and kind of storyboarding. So
Very cool.
it came very naturally. It was very easy.
Well, that's good. I mean, I feel like the naturalness of it comes across even in the dialogue and the way the movie is acted too. So it's nice that when it happens that fast. I've written some music before, and sometimes it's like 30 minutes. You're like, man, I got that song, it's nailed. And then sometimes it's like months, and you're still trying to get the wording just right. So that's cool. I did get a little bit of the Fight Club vibes, a little bit, with the guys showing up at the house and all that stuff. Different type of cult, but yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, Fight
And we
Club
didn't
was
even talk about Lou Temple. I mean, what
yeah.
a great performance out of nowhere from him. I mean, he's always kind of played a quieter character for the most part. Even his days on Walking Dead, I remember seeing him there first, and then he's popped up here and there, like in a couple Rob Zombie films and stuff like that. But he doesn't really have a lot of dialogue in those films and TV shows. So this was really fun to like see Lou Temple on screen just being kind of bonkers in a way. And just from the moment you first see him and he comes out of his house and has like a fake, you think it's a real gun and it's just like a light up gun. Like I just thought that scene was just so funny because I'm like, man, we're in for a real treat with Lou Temple. And then as the movie gets on, the audience, if you're gonna sit down and watch this, like Lou Temple is so funny. I mean, the whole cast is really funny together, but also going along with that, did most of the actors and actresses like improvise any of the lines, or did everybody stick to a basic script for the most part?
Definitely some improvisation. Purely, we housed Holston, Allen, and Therese together, and so they would go and do lines up in the rooms, and then come the next day. The one that I most remember fondly is the fire pit scene, because they just came up to me and was like, "All right, we've been planning it all night." I was like, "What is it?" And then he's like, "We got it." We're like, "Okay," stuff like that, just completely improvised. But
Wow.
I will say this about Lou. First off, pleasure to work with Lou. Like everyone should learn who Lou Temple is. I loved him. Um, I housed with myself with him. We were in a separate location. He is an interesting lad. The character you see in the movie is kind of reminiscent of him in real life. He would just ask me questions that were just so bizarre, and then he would just like break out into conversation about things that were almost more bizarre. And I have been known to just randomly say things at a party once or twice and ruffle some feathers. And that it's just who I am. I have no filter. But he had no filter in a very peculiar way sometimes. So, I feel like I wrote it for him. And I didn't know that he was going to be in it. I didn't know who he was at the time either, which is shame on me, but I did not know who it was. But he was Uncle Ed. He is Uncle Ed, and I would work with him in a heartbeat on anything else. I really don't care what the project is. So I had a great time. I'm
Nice.
sure Holston has similar memories of him.
But yeah, yeah. No, he was honestly a real asshole. No, I'm kidding. No, he was incredible. And I'll say this: here was the really exciting thing was that he was a magnificent mentor. As somebody who most of at that time period, I had done a lot of shorts and a couple. I had like 3 features as supporting roles, and I had just led my first feature, and it was like a Hallmark style Christmas thing, and this was my second feature to lead. So I'm still finding my footing as how do I show up to set as like first team lead and kind of set an atmosphere there. And he really kind of, on one of the first or second days, chatted with me, and he was like, so, you want to make sure you're going and introducing yourself, even when it's like a substitute, gaffer, just on this one day. Go introduce yourself, welcome them to set. You know what I'm saying? People are going to be looking to you for an idea of like, where is the flexibility with this scene and how can we do this stuff? They're going to be looking to you for like, are we going to be running lines offset, or is it a nobody's talking to each other sort of situation? So he was an incredible mentor in that way, in sort of illuminating some things that might be required of you when you're stepping into that sort of leading a feature.
That's amazing. It's nice to hear that. I can imagine that it might be. I mean, just knowing that he's been in a lot of different other things, was it at all intimidating? And did he break the ice with that, or did you kind of feel like we're on the set together, we're all equals, like let's go?
It was a little bit. It can always be a little bit. I actually, every time I work with like name actors on sets and stuff like that, if I don't know their stuff already, I will kind of check it out, but not really watch deeply on it, so I don't get spooked. But the cool thing about Lou was that he showed up and was immediately like, I'm on the same level as all y'all. That's he
cool.
might have even said that. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
But he was immediately like, salt of the earth. We're all making the movie together, and that's how it usually is. After having a few experiences like that, it's like that's how it always is working with name actors that I've worked with so far.
Awesome.
Not worked,
but not your.
I have not worked on a set of my own. Let's on sets that I manage, that I run, I have not yet ran into anyone that was problematic, let's say, unless they're a producer, allegedly. But I will say I have been on sets where some of these leads who are not big enough names to be like the level of irritating that they are quite interesting, let's say. And, I have to say, I have this one memory. I will not say who it is because we do know who it is. But I was a PA on a set when I was very young, and it was raining, and they were in a car, and we're filming. And it was perfect because they were going to pump in rain, but then it was raining, so they didn't have to pump in rain. So it was just raining, which is worse as a PA because then it's just raining instead of it not raining everywhere else. And I ran out because I was in charge of her, and I had the umbrella, and I opened it up, and I was holding it out for her. I was like, oh, we're going to go right here. She's like, don't I look pretty? And I was like, yeah, so we're going to go right here. She's like, no, don't I look pretty? And I'm getting soaked. And then I'm like, you look gorgeous. We're going to go this way. And I did know the owner of the company that was financing the film. I had networked with him, and I had known him for like 6 months. So I was like, this is going to be fine. But I did get called up into the AD's little van in the morning and did get talked to. So, it was not my fondest moment, but she was a terrible person, so I think I felt okay in that. I really don't care.
Yeah.
But yes, Lou was not that. Lou was about as pleasant as you could possibly ask for in a talent that has been on massive Tarantino sets. He did not care. He even had his friend who makes butter show up to set and handed me butter. And I thought he was in the mafia, and I was very confused who this gentleman was. And I have stayed in contact with that gentleman to this day, and he might be investing in a project of mine. So, all things work out ultimately.
Butter
So
man.
any friend of Lou is a friend of mine. So yes, I would say that. That's my saying.
That's awesome. Very cool.
You guys have some upcoming projects that you're working on. I know, let's start with Wes. You have a paranormal type film that you're working on, kind of.
Yeah, so we've got my second movie, The Psychic Files, which is about two streamers going into a haunted psychic mansion. So that one is with distributors. We have 2 offers at the moment, both like pretty good distributors. So we'll take one of those deals most likely. Unlike How to Start a Cult, where we told them off. Hopefully they didn't watch all of those videos of me saying distributors. That would be great. I have no idea.
That's funny.
I just don't care. It is what it is. So anyway, so we're gonna do that. I have a game show called Bagging Rights. That's very fun. We're funded, and we have some big content creators in New York who are going to be on that. So that's fun. And then I got I'm packaging this like, it's called The Best Podcast Never. And it's a TV series slash podcast. And it's going to be all content creators in the film industry. So they're like proper actors and stuff, but they have just like followings online. And we have the producing, directing, DP, those people already. And I have a bunch of meetings next week, mostly in the week after, who are like talent. But we're pulling people who are, 500,000 followers online type people. So we're
Okay,
pulling some
awesome.
pretty legit. Honestly, between the game show, we have 700,000 followers between all of the people, which is only like 4 people, which is like pretty good. We were kind of shocked. And then this, like, we're going to be like, the Best Podcast Never is going to be like a couple million subs across all the people involved. It's going like surprisingly well. But I'm a big fan of this indie, tell the studios to fuck off kind of mentality. I have a project that I wrote in college that is a great script called The Faithful Defender. And I promise you one day you will see this movie on a screen. Okay. So if you're watching this, you will see The Faithful Defender in screens eventually. And a producer picked it up about a year and a half ago, and then a rewrite, and then a rewrite. And then we got a director who's like a pretty big director to come on, and he's signed on now. Oh, but we want some more edits. And these guys want some edits. And it is going to be years. And I don't want to spend years. So we have other projects going on in the meantime. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
No, that sounds awesome though. I know game shows are kind of like the game shows, and then TV shows as well, like, are big. My cousin is a writer. Her and her husband live in LA, and her husband works on documentaries, and then she used to be on like Saturday Night Live for a couple years, and she wrote for AP Bio, that show with Patton Oswalt and Glenn Howerton. But she kind of has similar stuff where like when she's not working on the stuff that she wants to work on, like she'll work on a TV pilot, or like she'll work on something on the side, and it sometimes gets picked up. She was even working on a script with Ron Howard was directing, and she was like meeting up with Ron Howard, and then it was a drama comedy that she wrote. A lot of it was based off like growing up in Iowa, like that's where all my family's from, including myself. And her dad, my uncle, is just a nut. He's like the best storyteller ever. Lives in Wisconsin and Chicago. He goes back and forth. But she wrote this awesome script apparently, and Ron Howard was like, they were ready to do it, and then they paid her, and then they just shelved it for now. So I mean, who knows if it'll ever get picked up again? But yeah, it sounds like you kind of got to just go with what you're given in the current moment. So that all sounds cool though. That movie and then the game show.
I'll say this. I think that prediction time. I think that it is going to be the future where it is just not going to happen with the studios. It's just not going to happen. You are going to get together with your like 4 buddies. It's going to be like 2 actors that have all of like the following, and then you. And you're, instead of making it for millions, you're going to make it for like a couple $100,000. It's almost entirely going to be like sponsor driven, and then like Patreon. And you're going to be doing like a movie a year for like $500,000 or like $300,000, but you'll be able to generate legit returns off that because it's just made for so little. And then it just becomes about ownership and how many followers you have going into it. And then how much do you actually have to pay back to anyone, because the sponsors are the ones paying for it. So like there's no one to pay back. But the studio thing, whether it be because of AI or whether it be whatever, like they're so slow. And like you have to deal with like SAG. Sorry, Haulston. You have to deal with like SAG, and like they suck. And like you just have to, you have to deal with all these union. None of it's gonna work. Like none of that stuff's gonna work. So it's gonna be about speed and agility. And I think the future is gonna be just like YouTube. Everything's gonna be on YouTube.
Yeah.
For free. And yeah, so
It's funny
that's
you
the
say
future I'm
that.
preparing for.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I mean, just look at some of the movies. Well, there's an upcoming movie from Barker or whatever from YouTube, and it's supposed to be really awesome, the early screenings, but it's called Obsession. I thought his film he put for free on YouTube a couple years ago on Starred In, I think it was called like Milk and Syrup.
Yeah. I watched that.
So,
I watched
yeah,
that.
it was
Yeah.
about like a killer or whatever, but him and his buddy who's always in his videos, they starred in it. But it got rave reviews and now he's got like his first big movie that's going on the circuit and stuff. Or Markiplier, like look at what he did with the Iron Lung. I mean that was a little bit more hefty, like 3 million, but still what he was able to accomplish with the team and the effects team and all that. And then like kind of just be like, hey, we'll take what theaters you give us, but that they turned that into from like 500 theaters originally to I think it was in like 3,500 theaters by the end of opening weekend. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think YouTube is a big part of it. Well, and just look at I just listened to who was it, Maya Hawk. She was talking in an interview and saying how when she goes on like casting calls and stuff now, a lot of the young people that they pick, they they base it off of like how much social media following you have over whether you're like talented or not. So that part I don't really agree. I mean, it's cool to give people chances and stuff, but like you got to give the hidden talents a chance too, just because like you'll never know what kind of cool movies you could get out of it.
Ideally, you get both.
Right.
The game show we went through this is like, there's a lot of people with a lot of following, and we could have gone for someone with even more. Now she's got like 400,000 followers, so like I won't say who it is, but like whatever. Like she's pretty legit online. But we did go through like 40 options to get to. We submitted to one person, she said no, and then we got to her. So ideally you get both. Ideally a little bit of following, and then someone with some real timing and rhythm. So
Cool. And for you, Halston, you have a new sketch show, right?
Oh yeah,
The
man. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. No, I directed and produced a sketch show out in New York recently, and it is a whack project. It's very much in the same world as like Monty Python or like
that's the
the
vibe I
Mighty
got. Monty
Boosh. Was it?
Python. Yeah,
Do you
yeah, the
remember
Mighty
Mighty Boosh?
Boosh. Yeah, the
Yeah,
Mighty
yeah.
Boosh. Yeah,
I think it's totally in that world, but it's called Iron Bear 2 Night, spelled like knights, medieval knights.
yeah.
And it's a lot of fun, really cool thing that I got to make with some cool people who I love very dearly. So that just came out like last week, and then in December I led I did my third feature that I've led. It's called The Passenger. Um, and it will be releasing, I believe, this summer. They're looking at a limited theatrical release and then it'll go on streaming. So keep an eye out for that. Killer time working on that. And then today was our first read through and fitting for my next feature film, which is a very spooky feature called One Wicked Night. It's being directed and written by Jerry Macaluso, who uh, is kind of a legendary special effects guy. He was part of the team that created the Toxic Avenger, uh, Evil Dead stuff. If you look at him on IMDb, he's got like a billion horror things, and so he's directing this one. He wrote this one, and I just did the reading for it today, and it is going to be very cool. It follows some YouTubers, and they go on a wild ride during one wicked night.
Awesome.
And then at the end of the movie, one character looks at the other one and says, "Guys, that was one wicked night." And
That was a wicked night. I gotta go hit the
and then
pissa.
all the viewers, yeah, we all say, "Take a drink." He said the title.
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's
Oh,
amazing.
man.
Sprang, did you have any other questions before we do the rapid questions?
I think the only other thing I wanted to mention, not necessarily a question, but I really felt like the way that the film looked. It looked very professional. I just didn't know if you had any insight on the camera that you used and how you were able to. I mean, color. I'm sure color correction and all that stuff was a part of it too. But it just looked really pro from start to finish, and I just wanted to comment on that.
yeah, so here's a helpful tip for filmmakers out there. Don't touch the camera. If you want to touch the camera, stop being a director. It's kind of an either or there. I have no idea about cameras. I have no idea about lens. I know a little bit about lenses, not really though. I essentially say in plain English to David Newbert, who's a phenomenal DP, to then go do stuff. And then he turns around to Hugh, which is really just only Hugh, and he says a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and then a bunch of things happen. And
Nice.
that's pretty much my work ethic on that one. I think that although you wear a lot of hats as an indie filmmaker, if you want to make something look good, that is just a purchase. You're just buying someone's time who knows how to do that, because those guys are artists. They like legitimately understand how to bend light and like how to make it look a certain way. I don't do that. So thank God for David. He did my second movie as well, which also looks phenomenal. And when I get around to doing a third movie, he'll be doing that one as well. So,
Awesome.
all my
Yeah.
movies will always look great because I have
Yeah.
Dave. Yeah. So
Perfect. Shout out to Dave.
shout out to Dave. Honestly,
Looks
yeah.
great.
That's awesome.
Well, we'll end this with a few rapid questions real quick if you guys have time. So first question, is there a property or character you would love to adapt into a film?
I want to play Billy the Kid. I'm dying to
Okay.
play Billy
that's
the
a good
Kid
one.
before I get too old for it. I want Billy the Kid.
I like it.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, like when I don't read much. I am severely dyslexic. That makes me sound really dumb. I'm not dumb, but I don't read much. And I consume a lot of movies, but then it's kind of been made. So I have no idea. Let's go with no.
No idea. Got it. Cool. I know one of the other questions is it's kind of like the island question. You're stranded on an island. You only have one movie to keep you company. What movie do you take it to the island?
Cool Hand Luke.
Nice.
I think I'm gonna go with Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Ooh,
Wow.
Yeah.
solid.
Nice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. I don't know that I've answered that question.
Yeah, please.
My I don't know. It might have to be Romeo and Juliet. Like there might just be
Yeah.
something where
That
it has
Baz
to.
Luhrmann, yeah.
Yeah, the Baz Luhrmann. I don't know, man.
It's got so much. You can find something new in those pictures every single
Yeah.
watch through. You know.
And I feel like that being alone on an island, having something a little bit elevated language wise, where it takes a little bit more brain power to understand what's going on, might keep me sane. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I picked the movie about people tripping.
Exactly.
I would want the version with, is it Leo with the guns?
Yes, yeah, that's the one.
That's what he's talking about.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Yeah,
is that the one
yeah.
you're talking about? Oh,
Yeah.
God, that one's so funny. I love
So
that one.
The crazy thing about that and why that one came to mind is I've told the podcast before, but when that movie came out on VHS, I recorded it to an audio tape and played it in my car to and from school every day for like the entire school year, so that I could try to memorize the entire movie. So that's why it's kind of like it's like a warm blanket of like nostalgia and like all that stuff. So it just feels natural to be my island movie. But it was all to get chicks. It was all to get chicks. Cause like if I can quote Shakespeare, maybe someone will like me.
Let me tell you something. It did not work for me.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so funny, Halston, that you were like that you were a theater nerd. You're just not,
Bro,
like
there was a time period in my life, and kind of still, where I would be like, I loved being pretentious about it too. I would be like, you know what? Name a Shakespeare play, I'll do a monologue for you. Like I could do that. You know what I'm saying? There was a time period where I could probably do a monologue from a play that you did.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Big time theater nerd.
I guess we'll just finish up. Are there any actors or actresses you would like to work with?
Oh, I know he's like kind of not like people say things about him. Kogian, who's this?
Barry Keoghan?
Yeah.
Barry.
Barry Keoghan. Nice.
He might be, messing around with women or whatever. I don't know what he's doing. I really don't care. He's a great actor. Like he is like really
very good.
At him. I mean, in terms of working actors, Daniel Day-Lewis, obviously, but he's not working anymore. Then he comes out for his son, whatever. That's just not gonna happen. So Barry is like genuinely. I don't care if you're famous. I really couldn't care less. Like you be you. I'm not gonna get starstruck. It just doesn't matter to me. I might get starstruck if he enters the room. That dude's
Right.
sick. That dude's cool. I like that guy.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I'd love to work with McConaughey. I would love to.
Nice.
Dude, I just think it would be an incredible experience. That was my first, Mud was my first professional audition. I auditioned for those
Cool.
little boys.
That's a great movie.
No,
That's incredible.
well, one day.
Yeah,
One
that's a
day.
good. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
And ever since then, I was like, wow, I want to work with him one day. I think it would be awesome.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your time. We really do appreciate you. Maybe we'll get you guys on for either like a prep episode or maybe if you have something else coming out, you can come on and promote it or whatever.
cool. Yeah, thanks for having us.
It was a
guys.
pleasure to
Great.
meet you, Sprang, and thanks for having us.
Yeah. Absolutely, guys. Thanks.
Yeah, take it easy.
Josh.